What if everything you thought you knew was a lie? What if the official version of events, the one repeated across headlines and trusted institutions, was not only incomplete, but fundamentally flawed? Recently, new evidence has surfaced. Evidence that, if true, changes everything. It suggests that the story surrounding the death of Charlie Kirk may not have unfolded the way we were told. This isn't speculation for the sake of drama. This is based on slowed-down footage, expert testimony, and chilling photographic details that appear to point in one direction. The official account may not line up with the truth. And if that's the case, the real question becomes, why? Before we go further, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because the information you're about to hear is the type that rarely gets discussed openly. Share this with someone you know who values digging deeper in the headlines, because the details here will likely not make it to mainstream coverage. The story begins with a single piece of video. At first glance, it seemed like just another angle of a tragic event. Grainy, chaotic, painful to watch. Most people scroll past it without noticing anything unusual. But for those who look closer, something seemed off. Frame by frame, the footage revealed details that could easily be missed by the untrained eye. A flash of movement. A sudden spray, a head snapping forward with unnatural speed. And then came the analysis. According to reports, a Marine veteran, someone who had seen combat firsthand, slowed the footage down and pointed to what he claimed was the unmistakable mark of an entry and exit wound. His conclusion was startling. Charlie Kirk was not struck from front. He was shot from behind, the back right side of his head, and the bullet exited through his throat. Why does this testimony matter? Because the man making the claim isn't just an armchair analyst. According to his own account, he had been shot 3 times in his life. He had trained extensively with firearms in both military and civilian settings. When he watched the footage, he didn't see random blood spray or a head jerking from panic. He saw something he had witnessed in war zones, the telltale reaction of a spinal or cranial hit. "Look at the tension," he allegedly said. "Look at the way the body stiffens. The head snaps forward and then collapses. That's not random. That's trauma. That's what a shot to the spine or head looks like." To illustrate his findings, he created a detailed breakdown, circling points on the footage, tracing bullet paths, highlighting entry and exit wounds. To him, it was undeniable. To others who reviewed his work, it was chilling. According to this analysis, the blood splatter itself told the story. First came the downward arc, fluid gushing from an entry wound. Then came the upward spray, a reaction consistent with a forward snap, pushing fluid into the air. The timing was precise. One, then the other, entry, exit. Ballistics experts argue that while the caliber of the bullet may spark debate, it ultimately doesn't change the core issue. Whether it was a 5.56, a .308, or another round, the short distance from entry to exit meant expansion was unlikely. What mattered most was trajectory. And in this case, all the evidence reportedly pointed in one direction, from behind. Of course, skeptics immediately asked, could this video have been doctored? Was the evidence manipulated? To answer this, independent reviewers returned to the original footage released on the day of a shooting. And there it was again, slowed down, paused, examined under digital magnification. The same splash of blood from the back, the same forward snap, the same telltale spray. For many, this confirmed authenticity. What they were looking at was not the product of editing tricks. It was reality, captured in a horrifying moment. And perhaps most significantly, it appeared to show Charlie Kirk without body armor, eliminating early speculation that protective gear might have changed the outcome. As if the video weren't disturbing enough, another photo began circulating. At first, it looked unremarkable, a tangle of leaves and branches. But when magnified, observers began to notice shapes. A curve that resembled a human face, a patch of skin tone peeking from shadows, and, most damningly, the outline of what looked like a rifle held in a firing stance. The rifle appeared to have a long barrel and mounted optic. The silhouette was hauntingly familiar, an AR-15 style weapon. The angle of the suspected shooter's location aligned almost perfectly with the trajectory proposed by the video analysis. from the bush to the back right of Charlie's head to the throat. Coincidence or corroboration? Even blurry and grainy, the image raised unsettling questions. Here's the most important part. The FBI's official account, the one that most media repeated, did not describe this trajectory. It did not highlight an entry wound in the back of the head, nor did it acknowledge the possibility of a concealed shooter. So now the public is left with a disturbing possibility. Either officials overlooked evidence that independent reviewers found in mere hours, or they chose not to disclose it. And both options are deeply troubling. If it was an oversight, how could investigators miss what so many now see clearly? If it was deliberate, what motive could there be to suppress the truth? Those sharing the evidence fear not just skepticism, but silence. According to them, videos like these often get flagged, suppressed, or quietly removed from algorithms. Labels of misinformation or conspiracy can quickly shut down discussion. And so, they argue the only defense is visibility. The more people who see, share, and discuss the evidence, the harder it becomes to erase. For supporters of this analysis, it's about more than one man's death. It's about truth itself, and the danger of narratives shaped by those in power. If you're still with me, you know how important this discussion is. Don't let it stop here. Share this investigation with someone who values the truth. Leave a comment with your thoughts. Do you believe the footage points to a different story than the one we've been told? And above all, subscribe and stay connected, because this is far from the end of the story. The deeper we dig, the stranger this case becomes. Because if we accept even part of this independent analysis, if Charlie Kirk was in fact struck from behind, not from front, then everything changes. The official story doesn't just look incomplete. It begins to look impossible. And yet, the authorities have said little. Publicly, the narrative remains straightforward, almost sterile. Charlie Kirk was shot. The investigation is ongoing. No further questions. But behind the curtain, according to reports, whispers are spreading. Whispers of suppressed witness statements. Whispers of angles that don't add up. Whispers of photographs that were quietly archived, never shown to the public. And perhaps the most unsettling whisper of all, that the truth was visible to the naked eye from day one. Imagine, for a moment, that you are standing in the crowd. You hear the first sharp crack of gunfire. Instinctively, your head turns toward the sound. You see the commotion. You see bodies ducking, scattering, running. And then you see him, Charlie Kirk, collapsing, head snapping forward in an unnatural motion, blood spraying into the air. In that moment, your brain struggles to make sense of what you're seeing. Your instinct says, something just hit him from behind. But days later, when the news plays on loop, the narrative has shifted. The footage is blurred, slowed, simplified. Shot from the front. They say, shooter identified. The analysis is neat, clean, tied with a bow. And the contradiction between what you felt in the moment and what you're now being told gnaws at you. According to sources, this exact experience is what sparked many independent analysts to dig deeper. They couldn't reconcile what their eyes had witnessed with the sanitized explanation on the news. That's when the frame-by-frame reviews began. And that's when the so-called hidden shooter theory started to take shape. One striking point raised in these reviews is the body's tension. When struck by a bullet from behind, the spine reacts violently, muscles contract, the head jerks forward, the arms stiffen. The collapse is immediate and brutal. According to reports, this is precisely what the footage shows. And experts argue that it is nearly impossible to fake such a physiological reaction. CGI can mimic movement. Editing can alter angles. But the body's unconscious, instant reaction to trauma, that is far harder to forge. The alleged evidence doesn't stop there. Independent observers claim that thermal imaging from the scene, rarely shared with the public, shows a heat signature in the bush where the suspected rifle silhouette was spotted. A faint glow, consistent with the presence of a human body hidden in foliage. If true, that would mean the photograph of the supposed shooter wasn't a trick of leaves and shadows. It was real. A living person was there, waiting, aiming. But this is where the story takes an even darker turn. Because if there was, in fact, a second shooter hidden in the bush, then who was he? And more importantly, who put him there? No casual bystander walks into a rally with a scoped rifle and slips into cover unnoticed. To infiltrate an event of that scale would require planning, coordination, perhaps even clearance. According to investigative whispers, the angle of the shot was no accident. The shooter's position provided both concealment and a perfect line of sight. The shot was executed with precision, not desperation. And this raises another chilling question. Was Charlie Kirk targeted deliberately? Officially, there is no evidence of such a claim. But unofficially, analysts are connecting dots. Charlie Kirk, love him or hate him, was a highly visible figure. He carried influence. He made enemies. And in the volatile landscape of modern politics, that can be dangerous. Some argue this theory is far-fetched. Others believe it is the only explanation that makes sense. And as the debate rages online, one thing is becoming clear. Silence from authorities is fueling suspicion, not calming it. According to some reports, even the medical findings leave gaps. Autopsy details have not been made fully public, with only vague summaries provided. Critics say this lack of transparency invites doubt. Why not release the exact entry and exit wound descriptions? Why not clarify the trajectory? Unless, of course, the truth doesn't match the official narrative. Even more unsettling is the possibility that evidence has been actively withheld. A few insiders claim that multiple angles of the shooting exist, recorded by both civilians and official security cameras. Yet only a fraction of this footage has ever been released. Where is the rest? Why hasn't it been shown? And then there is the question of the crowd itself. Eyewitness accounts, though scattered, provide some of the most haunting details. Several attendees allegedly described seeing a flash of movement in the bushes just before the gunshot rang out. A rustling, a figure. But in the chaos, their words were drowned out by the official narrative. If even a handful of these reports are true, they corroborate the independent analysis. The hidden shooter wasn't just speculation. He was seen. But perhaps the most disturbing implication of all is what this means for the investigation moving forward. If officials are aware of these details, and if they have chosen not to reveal them, then the event isn't just a tragedy. It's a cover-up. And cover-ups always have a purpose. What that purpose might be is still a matter of debate. Was it to avoid panic? To protect powerful interests? Or simply to maintain the illusion of control? Whatever the reason, the result is the same. The public remains in the dark, piecing together scraps of evidence, desperate for answers. And that is why voices continue to rise. Analysts, veterans, ballistics experts, even everyday citizens, all calling attention to the same haunting details. But will it be enough? Because history has shown us time and again, when evidence threatens to disrupt an established narrative, it often disappears. Files go missing. Footage gets lost. Witnesses go silent. And unless the public demands answers, loudly, persistently, relentlessly, the truth risks being buried forever. That's why it's critical to share this investigation, to make sure the questions don't vanish into silence. If you believe in holding power accountable, if you believe in uncovering what lies beneath the surface, then don't just watch, act. Subscribe now, turn on notifications, and help push this discussion into the light where it belongs. Because the story is not over. In fact, we may only just be scratching the surface. The deeper question is not just how Charlie Kirk was shot, but why the truth appears so elusive. If, as the independent analysts suggest, the shot came from behind, then the official record cannot be trusted at face value. That means either mistakes were made in the investigation, or details were deliberately concealed. Neither possibility should sit comfortably with the public. And yet, despite the alleged evidence, many remain unaware. The story fades from headlines. News cycles shift. Other scandals, other crises, other distractions take over. But for those who have studied the footage, who have replayed it frame by frame, the questions refuse to disappear. Consider the bullet trajectory once more. According to reports, the path of the round is unmistakable. Entering from the back right of the head, exiting through the throat. Blood patterns, muscle reactions, body collapse, all consistent with this analysis. Why, then, would any report suggest otherwise? Why simplify the truth into a cleaner, front-facing narrative? Some believe it was to avoid public outrage. A shot from the front, after all, suggests a lone attacker, an easily explained event. A shot from behind, hidden among bushes, hints at something far more organized, something coordinated, something frightening. And history has taught us that governments, agencies, and institutions often prefer the version of events that maintains order, not the version that stirs chaos. But even if we allow for the possibility of simple error, more questions arise. How can trained investigators, forensic experts, and medical professionals all fail to notice the same details that amateurs online claim see so clearly? Is it incompetence, or is it intent? Adding to the mystery are the alleged still images, blurry, grainy, but compelling. Within them, the supposed outline of a figure crouched behind foliage, the faint curve of a rifle barrel, the indistinct profile of a head. Alone, these might be dismissed as coincidence. Together, alongside the video analysis, they gain weight. If even one frame is genuine, then the presence of a second shooter cannot be denied. And if a second shooter exists, then the narrative collapses entirely. Because second shooters are not accidents. They are not anomalies. They are hallmarks of conspiracy. The chilling possibility is that this wasn't a lone act of violence, but part of a plan designed, orchestrated, and executed with precision. If so, then every silence from officials, every missing file, every blurred clip becomes more than negligence. It becomes complicity. And yet, the more this possibility is raised, the louder the denials become. Fact-checkers dismiss it. Media outlets ignore it. Officials decline comment. But silence does not erase suspicion. In fact, it amplifies it. Because when answers are withheld, the human mind does what it always does. It fills the void. It searches for patterns, for clues, for meaning. And in that search, it uncovers things that cannot easily be explained away. And that is why this case continues to haunt those who dare to look closely. Was Charlie Kirk the victim of a single visible assailant? Or was he caught in something larger, something hidden, something that only a handful of people truly understand? Until full transparency is given, the question will linger. Until suppressed footage is released, the doubt will grow. And until the truth is spoken plainly, speculation will spread faster than silence can contain it. This is where you, the listener, come in, because stories like this do not survive without voices willing to carry them forward. Evidence can vanish. Reports can be buried. But questions, once asked loudly enough, cannot be silenced. That is why it is vital to share this story. To keep asking, to keep pressing, to keep demanding what so far has not been given. The full truth. If the official account is correct, then evidence should support it. If it is not, then withholding information only deepens a wound. Either way, the public deserves answers. And as long as those answers remain hidden, people will continue to ask the same question. What really happened to Charlie Kirk? If you've stayed with this story until now, it means you're one of the few who refuses to accept half-truths and easy explanations. And that makes you part of something important, a search for truth that won't stop until the silence breaks. So don't let this investigation die in the shadows. Share it, discuss it, and above all, demand transparency. Because somewhere behind the blurred footage, the redacted reports, and the official silence, the truth still waits. And truth has a way of coming to light. If enough people refuse to look away. Subscribe now, stay connected, and join the effort to uncover what really happened. Together, we can push these questions out of shadows and into the light, because this story is not over. And maybe, just maybe, we're only at the beginning.